Welcome everybody to the Commemoration Day of World AIDS Day at MODA here in Atlanta. This is the Atlanta Queer Lit Fest segment, and what we're going to be doing here tonight, we have all the empty chairs specified or laid out with all specific poets and writers who have we've lost to AIDS, and some of the talent that we've lost over the years. From the United States, other countries, from all different walks of life. And there's actually so many, we've actually had to continue it all the way out into the other galleries. It's kind of like our own little Vietnam Wall here. And as we're reading the list, we're going to be breaking that up with excerpts and poems and pieces from various artists that are included.
Steve Abbott, Gordon Stewart Anderson, Ronaldo Arenas, Jean-Paul Aron, Isaac Asimov, David Craig Austin, Thomas Abino.
Randy Schultz, from whom the band played on. Now for years and years and years, people in my hometown were telling me I was a freak because of my sexual orientation, till I came to San Francisco. And I found a community of freaks just like me. We stood together. We stood together. And it took a long time, but we finally forced this one tiny spot of the universe, the Castro, to realize that how we choose to have sex and where is our own damn business. Which to all other people who haven't gone through what we've gone through sounds funny, and they may laugh. But I know, speaking for most of us, I would rather die as a human being than continue living as a freak.
Simon Bailey, Charles Barber, William Barber, Walter Boraski, William Bory, John Boswell.
Yvonne Vera, Zimbabwean writer. When I am not writing, which is most of the time, it is though I am fasting. I am preparing myself. In other words, I no longer know what it is not to be consumed by writing. I anticipate sitting down with a story the way certain women anticipate lovers. With my breath held still, my knees shaking, a tidy room, a clean petticoat, and with no idea how the evening will turn out. In this case, the book. I will have had enough intimacies to acquire a general sketch, a thrill, and a confidence. It is the same with books that it is with lovers. If you cannot feel your body move towards a book, then you are mostly doodling, or being quite separate from the act of writing. I spend many months between books fasting. I am meditative and spend many hours on my own, with my hunger growing. I love writing. It is a feast for my senses. I write to share this feast with a reader.
Brainerd, Donald Britton, Harold Rocky, Bruce Chapman, Cyril Collar.
Ronaldo Arenas, New York, December 7th, 1990. Dear friends, due to my delicate state of health and to the terrible emotional desperation it causes me not to be able to continue writing and struggling for the freedom of Cuba, I am ending my life. During the past few years, even though I felt very ill, I have been able to finish my literary work, to which I have devoted almost 30 years. You're the heirs to all my terrors, but also of my hope that Cuba will soon be free. I am satisfied to have contributed, though in a very small way, to the triumph of this freedom. I end my life voluntarily because I cannot continue working. Persons near me are in no way responsible for my decision. There is only one person I hold accountable, Fidel Castro. The sufferings of exile, the pain of being banished from my country, the loneliness, and the diseases contracted in exile would probably never have happened if I had been able to enjoy freedom in my country. I want to encourage the Cuban people out of the country as well as on the island, to continue fighting for freedom. I do not want to convey to you a message of defeat, but of continued struggle and of hope. Cuba will be free. I already am. Ronaldo Arenas.
Gil Cuadros, Sam D'Alessandro, Serge Davey, Nicholas Dante, Tori Dent.
Thomas Arena, to the artist dying young. Disease has its own motion, doesn't it? The implacable motion of a glacier and its indifference to your will. Don't be deceived as if I had no more force than a whisper or something already dead. I want you to fight the bastards. Now black eyes push with fever from the devoured face. You are a skein of bones unraveling, vapor and lymph, light as champagne.
Daniel Diamond, William Dickey, Melvin Dixon, Tim Lugos, Jim Everhart, David E. Feinberg, Michelle Foucault.
James Merrill, Christmas Tree. To be brought down at last from the cold, sighing mountain, when I and the others had been fed, looked after, kept still, meant I knew, of course I knew, that it would be only for a matter of weeks, that there was nothing more to do. Warmly they took me in, made much of me. The point from the start was to keep my spirits up. I could assent to that, for honestly, it did help to be wound in jewels, to send their colors flashing forth from vents in the deep, fragrant sables they cloaked me head to foot. Over me then they wove a spell of shining. Purple and silver chains, ease-dripping tinsel, amulets, milagros, software of silver, a heart, a little girl, a Model T, two staring eyes, the angels, trumpets, Bud and B, the children's names, in clown-like capitals, somewhere a music box whose tiny song played and replayed, I ended before long by loving. And in shadow behind me, a primitive ivy to keep the show going. Yes, what lay ahead was clear. The stripping, the cold street, my chemicals plowed back into the earth for lives to come. No doubt a blessing, a harvest, but one that doesn't bear now or ever dwelling upon. To have grown so thin, needles and bone, the little boy's hand meeting around my spine, the mother's voice holding up wonderfully. No dread, no bitterness, the end beginning. Today's dusk room aglow for the last time. With candlelight, faces love lit, gifts underfoot, still to be so poised, so receptive, still to recall, to praise.
Craig G. Harris, Ray Gonzalez, Don Garner, Jason Gaber, Richard George Murray, Jane Del Vivienda,
Harold Broadkey, from This Wild Darkness, the story of my death. I awake with a not entirely sickened knowledge that I am merely young again, and in a funny way at peace, an observer who is aware of time's chariot, aware that the last metamorphosis has occurred.
Hervé Hubert, Essex Hemphill, Leyland Hickman, Guy Hockwingen, James S. Holmes, Arturo Islas.
Joe Brainerd, sick art. Mona Lisa's smile often causes observers to overlook the fact that she has no eyebrows. One skin specialist offered the suggestion that Leonardo da Vinci's model was suffering from a skin disease called alopecia. Alopecia is a skin disease in which one has no eyebrows. On the other hand, many women in those days shaved their eyebrows, and Leonardo da Vinci may have just been following the fad. There is no doubt, however, that Rodin's the thinker has bunions on his feet. Today, with modern art, it is not as easy to spot diseases and physical disorders. Many doctors, however, have noticed a strong relationship between various skin disorders and the paintings of Jackson Pollock. Fungus infections are very common in the art of the Middle Ages and Renaissance.
Adam Johnson, Glenn Philip Kramer, Didier Lestrade, Michael Lynch, Paul O'Brien.
Conditions 14 by Essex Hemphill. You left me begging for things most men thought they had below their belts. I was reaching higher. I could throw my legs up like satellites, but I knew I was fucking fallen angels. I made them feel like demigods. I believed my mission to be a war zone duty. Don't create casualties, heal them. But I was the wounded, almost dead. Helping the uninjured. Men whose lusty hearts weakened in the middle of the night and brought them to tears, to their knees for their former lovers. They could look at me and tell they did not want to endure what beauty love scars give me. So touch me now, Hannibal, Toussaint. I am a revolution without bloodshed. I change the order of things to suit my desperations. You can raise your legs, almost touch heaven. I can be an angel falling.
David Matthias, Peter McGehee, Ernest Matthew McGill, Peter McWilliams, James Merrill, Paul Manette, Cookie Mueller, Manuel Ramos Potrero.
Soto Saints, Haiti. Having seen so many times during the AIDS crisis, Haitian doctors and community leaders deny the existence of homosexuality in Haiti. Having heard constantly that the first afflicted male cases in Haiti were not homosexual, but alas, poor hustlers who were used by visiting homosexual American tourists who infected them and thus introduced a disease into the country. Having felt outrage at the many excuses, lies, denials, and apologies, I am duty-bound to come out and speak for the thousands of Haitians like me, gay and not hustlers, who, for one reason or another, struggle with silence and anonymity, yet don't view ourselves as victims. Self-pity isn't part of my vocabulary. Haunted by the future, I am desperate to bear witness and settle accounts. These are trying times. These are times of need.
John Preston, Jalen Regan, Richard Roman, Vito Russo, Asoto Saint, Barbara Sampson.
Nicholas Dante from A Chorus Line. I couldn't catch a ball if it had Elmer's glue on it. And wouldn't my father have to be this big ex-football hero? Well, he was so humiliated, he didn't know what to tell his friends, so he told them I had polio. On Father's Day, I used to limp for him.
Dick Scanlon, Nicholas Schaffner, Paul Kent, Jay Scott, Jack Sharpless.
Sam D'Alessandro. Someone said the pain would go away, but I'm not sure that's where I want it to go. It's how I feel him most sharply. Without it, every move I make echoes because he's not there to absorb me. I don't like bouncing back at myself. A dead lover wants your soul, wants your life, and then your death too. And you give it. It's the only way to feel anything again. Take the death as a lover and sleep with it and eat it and purge it and suck it back in quick. And finally, it's no event. It's nothing that happened. It's just you. An anger and a beauty that never really goes away. Not something you can wait out as it disappears. Nothing ever really just disappears.
Reginald Shepard, Randy Schultz, Ian Stephens, Carl Tierney, Yvonne Vera, Matthew Vaughn.
From Becoming a Man by Paul Monet. I speak for no one else here, if only because I don't want to saddle the women and men of my tribe with the lead weight of my self-hatred. The particular doorless room of my internal exile. Yet I've come to learn that all our stories add up to the same imprisonment, the self-delusion of uniqueness, the festering pretense that we are the same as they are, the gutting of all our passions till we are a bunch of eunuchs, our zones of pleasure in enemy hands. Most of all, the ventriloquism, the learning how to pass for straight. Such obedient slaves we make with such very tidy rooms. 46 now and dying by inches, I think finally see how our lives align at the core, if not in the sorry details. I still shiver with a kind of astonished delight when a gay brother or sister tells of that narrow escape from the coffin world of the closet. Yes, 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 goes a voice in my head. It was just like that for me. When we would laugh together and then dance in the giddy circle of freedom, we are children for real at last, because we have finally grown up. And every time we dance, our enemies writhe like the witch in Oz, melting, melting, the Nazi popes and all their brocaded minions, the rat-brained politicians, the wacko fundamentalists, and their book of lies. We may not win in the end, of course. Genocide is still the national sport of straight men, especially in this century of nightmares. And death by AIDS is everywhere around me, seething through the streets of this broken land. Last September, I buried another lover, Stephen Kolzak, died of homophobia, murdered by barbaric priests and petty bureaucrats. So whether or not I was ever a child is a matter of a very small moment. But every memoir now is a kind of manifesto as we piece together the tale of the tribe. Our stories have died with us long enough. We mean to leave behind some map, some key for the gay and lesbian people who follow, that they may not drown in the lies, in the hate that pools and foams like pus in the carcass of America. I don't come from the past. I come from now, here in the cauldron of plague. When the doors to the camps were finally beaten down, the Jews of Europe no longer came from Poland and Holland and France. They came from Auschwitz and Buchenwald. But I will never understand how the Straits could have let us die like this, year after year after year, collaborating by indifference, except by sifting through the evidence of my queer journey.
Leroy Whitfield, George Whitmore, Alex Wilson, Donald